Hello, my name is LoG, and welcome to another edition of LoG Power-Ups. Today's power-up, we will play a simple melody at a variety of dynamic levels, talking about all of the subtle techniques that we can use to achieve them. We'll also talk about dead notes, which is a technique that you can use to add some energy and some rhythmic quality to your melodies. This power-up will be split into parts 1, 2, 3, 4, and at the end of each part, we will have a backing track that you can play over. Once you have all the parts down, you'll play over the final video, which will again have a backing track that you can play over. If you enjoy this type of instructional material, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below. And now let's get on to part 1. Okay, so for this first part of this power-up, we first need to talk about the concept of 16th notes and how to think about them or how to divide a beat into 16th notes. Very, very simple. If you have a beat, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, you divide it into 8 notes. You're just adding in one extra note. So that's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then if you add in 16th notes, you're just filling in those in-betweens. So 1E and a 1E and a 1E and a 1E and a. So we have 4 hits or 4 notes, potential notes per beat. The reason why we're talking about this is a lot of the rhythms that are being played in this first part are accenting what are considered weak parts of the beat, or parts that are like those little in-between notes. So not the numbers, not 1, 2, 3, 4, not the downbeats, and not the ands either. It's those little in-between notes between the numbers and the ands, which are called the E's and the U's, because that's how we count it. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, like that. So if I were to strum just a chord, about that one, if I just did this and only accented, I'm going to play everything. I'm going to go like that all the time, but I only accent the downbeats. It sounds like this. Right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's a very obvious feeling strumming part because it's doing exactly what my head is doing naturally, right? Okay? If I do the ones and the ands, or the numbers and the ands, that sounds like this. I'll slow it down a little bit. Again, those are the obvious choices because that's mimicking what our head is naturally doing, right? Down on the beat and then up on the ends. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So the strumming, my accent's literally just following my head. But if I choose to accent those little hits in between the E's and the U's, so 1E and 2E and like that, it's not going to be locking into any of my head movements. Those hits are going to be in between, like while my head is moving back or while my head is moving down. So when you do that, it feels what most people call like off time, right? Those accents are happening off where the normal pulses are. Now, naturally, you might think, oh, that would be weird sounding, but in fact, it's actually, or it can be, really cool sounding because if you only play on those easier, strong beats on the head down or the head up beats, the ones or the numbers and the ands, then you're kind of playing what you're already naturally feeling. But if you accent those in-between notes, you're adding in extra hits that you're not naturally doing, and it feels kind of cool. It fills out the rhythm. It grooves, as most people say. So for instance, if I did a strumming pattern like this, right, that's very kind of normal, very feels, almost like a marching or like a robot. Like it feels very much locked into my head knot. But the second I start accenting those E's or the U's, so 1E and a 2E and a, like that, or 1E and a 2E and hitting those upbeats as people call them, it feels different. So check it out. Here's the normal one versus right, it has a different feel entirely because I'm accenting those little in-between spots. So again, the reason why I'm bringing that up, because it's a huge factor of this part that we're about to go through. So with that in mind, let's start this section. So I'll just play each part. There's a couple little sections. I'll play them individually and just use your ear and your eyes as you're watching me to figure it out. It's going to be way easier than me talking about every single nuance. So let me just play the first part. Sounds like this. Pretty simple. So I'm thinking B major right here, B major pentatonic or G sharp minor pentatonic, whichever one makes sense. And very simple. If I'm thinking B major, I'm just going 5, 6, 1, then 2, 3, 1, 5, 6, 1. 1 being right there on this beat. Right? Notice that rhythm. Okay, so this rhythm is the same rhythm 3 times in a row. It's just starting at different parts of the beat. It's a group of 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're playing over 4/4, which is why it starts to sound slightly off time because you're playing 2 different groupings at the same time. Now, how you're playing this, I actually don't really care right now. I just want you to play it however's comfortable. If you want to pick everything, that's fine. If you want to do hammer-ons, pull-off, whatever it is, do whatever makes the most sense for you right now. And then down the road, once we get to talking about the dynamics, we'll talk about the exact fingering that I think you should be playing to accomplish the things we want to do there. But for now, just play it, whatever's comfortable. Okay, that's part A, we'll call it that. Part B sounds like this. So I'll play a little slower. So we're up here, if that's our 1 up top, hammering on 5, 6, 5, like that, sliding back with the ring finger to the 2 of the key, then simply going 1, 6, 5, 1, 6, 5, 6, right? Super typical, super, almost kind of corny sounding. Little finger roll there from the 5 to the 1. Here's the 2, 1, 6, 5, 1, little finger roll, right? Pretty simple. Then the next part, right back to part A. Right, pretty simple. So I'll play all of that. Again. Right, pretty straightforward. The only thing I do want to talk about here with this part B, this is an instance where we are accenting or coming in on one of those upbeats, right? Those in-between head nod hits. So this one will be 1 E and So it happens on the very last note before the next downbeat. So check it out. 1 E and So you have to really make sure that you're locking in. I'm going to turn on a metronome here so you can hear what that sounds like in time. But do keep that in mind when you're playing this. I'll play it one more time. So they run into each other like that. Pretty simple. Part C, this last little bit, looks like this. Again, all of these notes that we're about to play are all on those in-betweens, E's or U's. In this instance, we're starting on the very next note after the downbeat. So 1 E and 2 E and 1 E. So every single hit I'm playing is either on a E or an So the note right after the downbeat, the numbers, or the note right after the ands or before the next downbeat. So if it might make it easier to run this whole thing with just upstrokes, like as you're playing, because the upstrokes will naturally lock into that tempo or lock into that feel. But it's up to you. You don't necessarily have to do that. These notes, by the way, are just if we're in the key of B. So 1, 7, 6, 5, and then 6. B, A sharp, G sharp, F sharp, G sharp. After we do that, same little slide that we were doing for part B, like that. Walking down the pentatonic. That takes us to this 5 right here, which allows us to start over again with part A. So, right, so we're kind of doubling that last 5th right there. Part A. Right, really simple. And then we do part B again. Now this part, it's a little bit different at the end. Same thing. That's all exactly the same, but we end like this. From the root 6, root 2, and then a little slide up to the 2, and that's the end of the part. So again, it's kind of awkward to talk about all the individual things, so the best thing you can do is just listen to me play it, try to lock in as best as possible, then I'm going to play it with a metronome, same thing there. So I'll play the whole thing by myself. That's the whole thing. So now I'm going to play it with a click track. See how fast we are. about the tempo I just played. So this is 80. And again, the click is giving me the numbers. So 1 and the ands. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? Check it out. Here we go. In time. That's the whole thing. Notice this little part right here. When I did this, check it out. I'm doing it in time. Every single note is happening in between the click because the click is giving me the numbers and the ands, and I'm playing entirely in between those, the e's or the uhs, right? So if I sing it or count it, e, 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 that's the rhythm. So really important that you're locking that in because that's the feel here. This is pretty slow, and to be honest, when we get to the part, like the ideal tempo for this part is really probably like 115, 120. I think it feels a lot better there. However, I would recommend, let me turn off the click. I would recommend that you actually practice this slow. It's a lot easier to practice this sort of thing fast because your technique can kind of come into play and it just feels better, right? If I go... Right, it's easier to kind of play in that feel because you kind of just get going and it feels more natural. But when you're trying to do this slow, it might not feel natural. At least it doesn't for me. So I personally, when I'm playing this type of stuff slow, I have to really concentrate on the rhythm. So if I turn that click on, this is a lot slower than what I was just doing. I have to really think about it so that I can lock in. So that's the downbeat. Check it out. I have to really concentrate. Even some of those notes were sort of rushed, and that's usually the thing that will happen. If you try to play, turn off that click. If you try to play these in-between hits, the E's or the U's, the common thing to do, or at least for me, because I definitely do it, is to play them too fast or to rush them, right? Because they're perfectly placed in between those clicks, but it's often a common, thing for people to try to do that upstroke too quick because they want it to be faster potentially than the time actually is. So really important to play this stuff slow and really concentrate and think about that feel. We're going to talk more about how to do this in a little bit more comfortable way in a later video, but definitely just try. That's the main thing here, is to make sure that these rhythms are locking in, especially to a slower tempo like that. That was 80. So the track that we're going to play over here in a second runs from 80, starts at 80, and it goes to 120. So try to lock in as best you can. Yeah, it's one of those things like, for me, doing a rhythm like this, like that tempo feels good. This tempo feels good to lock in once I lock in, but it's not a natural thing for me. It's kind of like if you go outside, everyone has their natural kind of walking pace. Some people's walking paces are faster than other people, right? Some people are a little slower, some people are a little faster. So if you are outside walking your normal walking pace and then you force yourself to walk slower, it feels odd. It's like you have to really think about your pacing to make sure that you don't trip over yourself. It's kind of same thing here. Everyone has like a comfortable feel that is natural to them. Some people it's faster, some people it's slower. For me personally, for whatever reason, I tend to gravitate towards slightly faster tempos when doing this sort of stuff. So the slower tempos are the ones that I have to practice personally, where it might be the opposite for other people. So do keep that in mind. Again, that's pretty much all these parts. I'll play it one more time again just to refresh. Now, fingering, everything like that, again, I'm going to leave that up to you. I'm using a very relaxed fingering. It's almost entirely like pointer finger, ring finger for a reason. We'll talk about that down the road in a later video. Same thing with the picking hand. Do whatever's comfortable because we're going to alter some things here in a couple videos. But yep, that's pretty much it. So let's get on to this track. This track, again, is going to be from 80 to 120. right, that does it for part 1. As usual, if you enjoy this type of instructional material, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below, and I'll see you guys in part 2.